Can you trust generic crop inputs? You hear about them, you see them on the marketplace, but do you use them? And why not? That's what we're talking about in this episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
Welcome to XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve podcast, where real farmers share real insights and real results to help you improve your farming operation. And now, here's your host, Damian Mason.
Hey there, welcome to another fantastic episode of XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve. We're talking about post-patent products. Generic is a term that some people may not even remember. In the 1980s, we had all kinds of inflation. You go to the grocery store and you'd have like a generic beer can, generic everything. Well, when we say generic, there's this idea that somehow it means it's lesser value or lesser quality. I think that we need to refute that, and I've got Brian Adams right here with North Delta Biologicals. That's a conglomeration with our friend Johnny Varell, and I've got Bret Corbett over here. He's a product development manager with Albaugh, and we're talking about post-patent products. We set this up on a call, and I said this is something we should cover. They get used a lot in agriculture, but there's probably still some perception. I don't know, man. I don't know if the quality's there. Talk to me.
Yeah, so it's a big misconception, and I think in order to address that, we need to go back a little history, but let's start with what the American public is used to. You go to a Walgreens, CVS, pharmacy, do you buy Tylenol or do you buy acetaminophen? Do you buy, Advil or do you buy ibuprofen? And so it's been well accepted by the Americans to put that inside their body, but then it's kind of has a stain in industry of, oh, I'm buying a cheaper product in the field. And that's not really the case. We have formulation chemists on staff. We manufacture things in-house, generics do, but there is also a difference between generics.
Brian, there's a difference between generics, but we're going to do the testing and all the stuff because I know you guys can both geek out on that. So a lot of people don't know. Brian here is a PhD, Mississippi State Bulldog. I love talking to him. We've had a lot of fun. We recorded stuff about cotton when we were at Varell's. We've recorded things in the past. If you're in this space doing what you do, both in recommending and also selling stuff, there's a lot of room for post-patent products. But there's still an idea. I mean, I hear it said things like, well, that fungicide isn't really a name brand. And so there's the idea that somehow it's not as good.
Yeah, so that certainly exists right now in the marketplace, and you think about it. Bret mentioned post-patent actives. You're getting the same active ingredient, right? He mentioned they have formulation chemists. They're going through quality control standards, and I know he can speak to that more. And but my big deal is in the ag economy we're in right now is probably the worst of my career. There's a certain fit, and then there's certain products that I'm going to be really honest. I couldn't even remember the name of the original. The original active or the original
brand name.
Yeah. I mean, you think of Metribuzin. I don't know what that used to be, but there's a million of them out there now, and certain things are there. There's room for it. And in fact, there's a lot of room as you look through herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, and they fit well, and they still perform just as well as they ever have. It's just understanding how to put products together and use them in a system.
All right, you're the person, a lot of education. You're like a lab guy, and there's the science part of it. But there's probably a thing, Bret, where you say, yeah, well, it's one thing to say acetaminophen. I'm just trying to cure a headache. This thing has to have 16 modes of action and hang around for 8 weeks with residual. We're not talking about a headache because I had too many drinks yesterday. We're talking about something, also my livelihood depends on it. You can understand that. I don't mind generic Tylenol, but I'm sure as hell not going to entrust 1,000 acres to this.
Absolutely, because it's your livelihood, you got money on the line, your farms, your mortgages with the bank.
Judgmental neighbors.
Exactly.
Drive by and see that doesn't work.
And so that's
what have that where you live.
Yeah, absolutely we do.
So that was part of the thing of not all generics are made the same. But when you think of, what's considered, and these are some terms that we like talk through the podcast, but, basic manufacturers, what is post-patent, what is patented. So you have these flagship companies, you have to tie to them. They're doing discovery, they're what giving farmers options for the near future. So we have to have those within the field. The thing is, 20 years after they synthesize something, and it comes off patent, you have generic companies, if they have brick and mortar within the U.S., they can make something that is an economical choice for the farmer. It has to go through the same EPA regulations, the same testing at universities. It is tested, formulated in the U.S. It is sold to farmers. It is an economical choice, and a lot of times they have newer surfactants and added packages to them. That is different.
Does the reluctance to use it, is there a basis in that? There's a reason. Somebody got screwed somewhere on a crappy product.
You know, something probably happened somewhere, and I think a lot of that probably goes back to exactly what he says. When you're getting stuff from overseas, Damian, the quality controls, the standards of production are not what they are here in the U.S. That's I know where he was going with it. So it gives generics or post-patent actives as a whole kind of a black eye on that. But no, he's absolutely right. There should be no basis for it, but you make sure you're buying from a quality and trusted
Well,
provider.
that's the tough part. So if I go the bargain route and I pick up a jug and it says 44% active glyphosate, but it came from India,
Yep.
can I trust it?
I would put my glasses on and look that you've got in your pocket there and read and see where it come from, and I would try to lean toward American made. That's been my experience.
Only because of not because we're doing some jingoistic thing here, because actual inspection.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the reason you'd say that.
Yeah, because
Oversight.
Oversight. Yeah, you know, even patented companies can bring technical in from good supply choices and partners overseas. I'm not saying that every single start to finish is made in America for generics and patented companies. But if you have a company that's been around for several decades, example 46 years, manufactured in America, we put certain parameters in place just like a patented company would for formulation development, for formulation chemistry, retention samples. All those things have to be in spec, and they're checked, double checked, rechecked before they send out to a crop.
To answer your question, I use 2,4-D. I think it came from TSC. I don't know that there ever was a trade name for 2,4-D.
There's a lot of them, if you really think about it, we take for granted. Metolachlor is one that obviously is dual, that's kind of where it started, but metolachlor is an older AI, metribuzin, 2,4-Ds, the dicambas. There's a lot of older chemistries that are still very prevalent today that are available as a post-patent active from companies like Albaugh.
Put on the hat of the customer, not Albaugh, and say, all right, what do I need to know? In other words, since you know what you know from your end, now you're the farmer and you're wanting to make sure that you don't have a bad experience with a post-patent product. And most farmers have used post-patent products. I mean, again, the big ones, glyphosate and 2,4-D, there's a lot of not Monsanto, well, Bayer, Roundup gets used out there.
Yeah, no, so if I was going to be a grower, for example, I would, as you echo what Brian said, I think the older chemistries, 2,4-Ds, the dicambas, glyphosate, glufosinate, I think, those have been around, they've been tested for years and years and years in the generic market. I would be fine with that. If you did have reserve and had some bad experience or had, you read something.
So when you're
before,
32 years old, you think dicamba's old chemistry. I'm still trying to get used to it. I mean, it's only been around 10 years, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, when I consider it, anything post-patent, I consider it older chemistry.
Right.
Because you're
That's why it's off patent.
synthesizing, you're
That's why it's off
researching.
patent.
Exactly.
All right, so go ahead.
So I would say, some of the newer fungicides, things like that, those are going to check boxes that generic chemicals don't currently have. But I think for the older chemistries, if you partner with a good generic supplier, you're not going to have any issues. And as I mentioned earlier, certain companies have been around for decades.
Yep.
If anything happened with a basic company, it'd be the same thing as a post-patent company.
What do you think of when you think about this? Because it's not even, we set this topic because I'm not a person that thinks it has to be a brand name. I would say, if I needed a product in my field, whatever works and makes the most cost-effective sense.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, given my background and what I do in making recommendations, the evaluation has to be first and foremost from an agronomic standpoint. What am I trying to achieve here? What weed am I trying to kill? What disease am I trying to control? Take the disease part, for example. Do I even have the conditions favorable for said disease? You look at it from an economic standpoint of what the product costs, what commodity prices are right now, and say, okay, given the weather, I think I can get by maybe with a little bit more economical option to get me to the finish line, right? Because we can have the argument all day about an automatic fungicide application or not. That's been going on longer than I've been in the industry, and it'll be going on long after I'm gone. But if you think about it from a truly agronomic standpoint, what you're trying to control, you need to understand what the actives are, what they can do for you, and make that decision from there.
So in the post-patent market manufacturing biz where you are you still doing testing?
Oh, 100%. We do testing. We have, myself and other.
This stuff's been around for 20 or 50 years. Why bother?
Yeah, well, you got to make sure that what we do day in and day out is quality. So when I say we do testing, we do multiple steps. So we have the formulation, lab testing, make sure everything that's going through the manufacturing plant is the same, right? We don't want to
consistency of ingredients.
Right. The next step would be new things coming off patent. So when a Corteva or a Bayer or BASF their patent is about to expire, and we think that's an attractive active that we want to get into the game, we start testing our formulation of that. We got to add different inerts and different adjuvants and stuff like that because it's newer and different, and we can't make the exact same thing. It's got to be slight tweaks. So we test to make sure our stuff performs well in the field. And then a lot of it is supporting research, university cooperators, private cooperators, and then also educating the public, which is a big thing. For example, 2002, Iowa State did a large study on glyphosate and showed that all glyphosates actually performed. There's 2 generics in there, and then the Monsanto branded product all outperform statistically the same. And actually, the generic products, because they have some newer surfactants in it, outperform Monsanto. So those things are publicly available online for the public to read. I mean,
Have you heard of this before?
Yes.
Where because the post-patent stuff, finally they're doing little tweaks to it still, and then all of a sudden we just made a better mousetrap.
Well, it is.
Of course, you got a lot of time to work with.
You do, and I mean, as technology advances, I think he mentioned it earlier. Surfactants, whatever you can do to increase the performance of that product. By the time something goes off patent, you're 10, 20 years down the road. You've made some advancements in other areas, and he mentioned the inerts again. The things that you put in there, you can figure out how to make that product just a little more efficacious. So,
and to talk about economics, as you mentioned earlier, it's like, oh, well, you're just buying something cheap. Well, the reason why it's cheaper is when these, when these patented companies, they invent these, it's hundreds of millions of dollars. You got infrastructure, you got research scientists. It is a long thing. You got all the environmental studies to get it registered because it's new and different. EPA's got to go through all these parameters.
There's like a new pharmaceutical in that regard.
Exactly.
They always talk about you can bang on the pharmaceutical companies, but they've got 7 years to make up for the 7 years of investment, and the guy in the white coat in there, and the lady that's running trials and all that. There's a lot of money that's invested in that. So
absolutely. But then when it comes off patent, they've made their margins. They try to make as much money as they possibly can while it's on patent. Once it comes off patent, that's why the prices drop and it becomes more economical for a farmer because they were making a ton of money to try to make up for the investments they had to put in. So that's why I would consider the negative from the generic is cheaper.
Brian, your plus and your minus. So they said that the minus is you have heard stories that are real of it was a dud, and it's more because it was misrepresented.
Yep.
It didn't have in the jug what the jug said it had in it.
I won't say that it necessarily didn't have have what it said was in the jug was actually in there. There's government entities in place to check for that certainly, but that it's maybe not formulated the best. Quality controls the formulation, especially as you get into like I said, some of these overseas manufacturers. Certainly the negatives, but the positives is that you can put together, for me, solid agronomic and economic plans for weed, insect, and disease control to manage throughout the season. And a large portion of that is, as Bret said, be these post-patent actives or generics, whatever you want to call them. And again, the fit's still there for your basics, right? Because it's hundreds of millions of dollars to get a new active to market. Mm-hmm. And that's also paying for the failure of all the other molecules that didn't quite make it, right? So the D&I portion of what these basics are doing is absolutely needed, and it's critical to the industry as we make advancements. That's how these guys are going to pick up their future actives. They're going to be coming out of other people's D&I programs, and certainly a good thing. So the negatives and the positives are there, but pick a reputable company and partner with them, and that's always generally going to be a really good way to go. And there's a lot of them that are U.S. manufactured.
But wasn't there a thing, that's where, we started getting this problem, the 2018 trade spats, the 2021 supply chain, we started talking about not having crop inputs because a bunch of stuff came from overseas. Part of the reason it came from overseas is because it was an off-patent product, and it was also affordability of manufacturing. So where's Albaugh make its stuff?
So our main manufacturing plant in the United States is St. Joseph, Missouri, just on the other side of the river, Kansas City. But we are a global company, so we have manufacturing plants all across the globe. But most of the stuff that we produce is in the United States, and we are a U.S.-based company.
And I guess the testing would be?
All the testing for anything sold in North America is tested in North America.
Got it. What about the other? I mean, like I said, the first one would probably be, I don't know if it's going to work. That's it. I don't know that there's any horror stories that they bought something and it was, it killed anything. It's more just lack of effectiveness.
It's usually a compatibility issue mixing it in the tank. Sometimes it may not even be the product. It doesn't matter what it is. If you got 4 or 5 products going into the tank and you have a compatibility issue and one of them's new, you're going to blame the new one every time without fail. And it may not necessarily be that. I mean, just remembering proper mixing order. That's still pretty paramount in what we do today. Don't ask me to quote what the proper mixing order is because I don't remember, but I do have a handy little chart, and you can actually Google that. I should know it, but as I get older, I forget things. But a lot of times, just keeping to those principles helps a lot. But that's where a lot of that comes from.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because that's something we do rigorously in the lab. When we create these products,
test compatibility.
It's test compatibilities, absolutely.
Recommendation to the farmer, the producer saying, "All right, you got me. I'm believing I can trust this. I'm going to put this in there because usually the reason is." Well, availability and then affordability. Yep. Are those the 2 reasons that I'm going to go with a post-patent product? Mm-hmm. Okay. And usually it's something that's been around for a long time to Bret's point here. So look for where it came from. Look for where it's tested. What else am I looking for? Compatibility.
Compatibility, sure, yeah. Quality of product and economics in a $10 bean and a $4 corn market.
So you're saying now's the time to do it?
I'm saying, yeah, about 2 years ago would have been a great time to start and be well on your way to it now, but I wouldn't have any issues as long as I knew I had a good supplier.
Last thought. So you're the guy that's in the lab. You're the one that's out here doing it. If you're speaking at an ag meeting and there's a bunch of farmers there and the guy raises his hand and says, "I just don't know if I can trust your stuff." What's your, what do they call it, elevator speech? What's your 30-second response?
Yeah. So we've had this a lot, and I like to put money where my mouth is. So, for example, Rutgers University, we had a guy who said that he doesn't like to use our product, use the brand name product. I said, "Hey, I'll do this research plot at the university, all non-biased third-party data. We'll run stats on it. We'll bring you and your company out there." We did, and we actually performed a tick better. So I am a believer. I mean, that's where my paycheck comes from, but I'm a believer in generic products, and I've seen it firsthand. I mean, day in and day out in my job.
And Rutgers did a study for you. And you were challenged by a person.
I was, yeah.
Just like I just threw it out there.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, following more about this, I want to start putting post-patent products more and more into my mix because of the economics of agriculture right now. I want to learn more about your stuff. Been around for 46 years. Where do I go?
Yeah, albaugh.com. We have a pretty good website. Check it out. Yeah, we got multiple different entities. We've got seed treatment business, specialty business, crop protection.
And if I want to look you up personally, it's Bret Corbett. And I'll be the guy that challenged him to make him keep his game up.
Yeah.
He's joined by Brian Adams with Volunteer Ag Services. I said North Delta Biologicals. I can't keep it straight.
It's all the above. I don't know who I work for most days.
I appreciate being here. His name's Brian Adams. His name's Bret. I'm Damian Mason. Thanks for tuning in here. You know what? We got a whole library of information just like this you can learn from. It's at XtremeAg.farm. Hundreds and hundreds of these podcasts that we've produced, plus the videos the guys shoot out in the field. Not to mention, if you want to take your learning to the next level, you can become a member of XtremeAg. It's only $750 a year, and you can get access to our webinars. You get access to the year-end data. You also get special offers from our business partners. And also then you get access to the guys for information about information about crop production and all sorts of other things that you might want to go a little deeper on. So thanks for being here. Till next time, I'm Damian Mason with XtremeAg's Cutting the Curve.
That's a wrap for this episode of Cutting the Curve. Make sure to check out XtremeAg.farm for more great content to help you squeeze more profit out of your farming operation.